Don in London, hello. It's January 20th, 2013. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. And as I've learned about addiction to an old life and starting a new life, and a new life without alcohol, and a new life without striving to be perfect like I thought I used to be. Trying to be perfect and never so. Trying to fit in, trying to be whatever I thought I ought to be so that you would like me. I think that's where it all came from. I just wanted to be liked and loved and revered and all those good things. Just enough. Or more. I really don't know now. But that doesn't matter. What matters is life is better in recovery. And today I want to share about steps 6 and 7 and what they mean to me, because it's the tipping point on any given day how these 12 steps work in reality. So Alcoholics Anonymous is all part of how it works for me. I'm going to share the AA preamble, then talk about steps 6 and 7. So I hope it makes sense. I just hope it makes sense. It's just my interpretation, not somebody else's. So, just sharing the AA preamble. I never speak for AA. This is one voice of many in recovery about how life may work today. So the AA preamble shared at every meeting. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So it's many people, many voices, and I'm only one voice, so meetings are great. You get to hear many people's understanding of how life is working today. What you see is what you get. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And that preamble is something I heard and still hear in every meeting I go to of the fellowship. And it means to me that everybody has an equal right to their opinion and freedom to choose what is right for them in recovery. So we are not hidebound by a set of rules, but there are 12 principles, 12 steps of learning to live life and be free to make the best choice we can given the circumstances we are in. And the best of choices for me is always to be sober today. So at least if I don't know what to do, and that often happens, I can ask for help inside and outside fellowship, depending on what the issue is. So step 6 and 7 is something which is extremely important in my recovery. And in this book, The 12 and 12, I'll just read out the short version of what it says about step 6. And it says here, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So first and foremost, identifying that we do have extreme personality traits, defects, which are not helpful, and ready for God to remove them, or good conscience, or good, depending on your faith and belief. Notwithstanding that, fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous, one common purpose, sober, and with many faiths, beliefs and opinions, which are shared often by the people in the fellowship about what is right for them. You don't have to adopt their faith and belief. The 12 steps work if you work them. So nobody has to be a believer in God. It's better sometimes just to believe in what you believe in. And some people just believe in good. Buddhists believe in the good of life. Good conscience is there. But we have personality traits which can set us back, and they come in those forms. So it says here in step 6, necessary to spiritual growth. Spiritual growth. Somebody, the policeman going by, I think their spiritual growth might be a bit impeded today. So, necessary to spiritual growth, the beginning of a lifetime job. Yeah, a lifetime job. Recognition of the difference between striving for an objective that's a real thing, and striving for perfection, which doesn't exist. Why we must keep trying, being ready, is all important. Necessity of taking action, delay is dangerous, rebellion may be fatal. So going back to the old life might be fatal. Point at which we abandon limited objectives and move forward to God's will for us, or move forward in good conscience to what is possible. And if nature and nurture is all about listening to the world and what it has to offer and how we may fit in rather than control it in some powerful way, we find out where we can go and where we cannot go. And then step 7 is integrated for me into the steps and how they work. It said, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. What is humility? What can it mean to us? The avenue of true freedom of the human spirit. So humility is about asking and inquiring. Necessary aid to survival. The value of ego puncturing. And ego puncturing is really about suggesting to anyone that the answers don't always reside in us. We don't know what is best, and sometimes we have to understand the best for everyone. Failure and misery transformed by humility, strength from weakness. So what we perceived as a weakness or lack of life experience, asking for help, humility, then becomes a real strength. Pain is the admission price to a new life. Self-centered fear, chief activator of defects. Step 7 is change in attitude, which permits us to move out of ourselves toward, as it says here, God, or toward good, depending on your own beliefs and opinions. So, one fellowship, many faiths, is what I say. And I don't know. I honestly don't know. I do know that good conscience is in me, and I also know there are bad extremes in me because I'm a human being, and they sort of come out in the vices and virtues. So that's from the book 12 and 12, and it's important. Step 6, defects of character, all the old traits, the vices possibly, and step 7, all about humility, asking for help, inquiring, and including. It's not about me, and it's not about my way. It's just about learning what it is. Life, today. So, I'll try and get my words right. These are my notes, what I wrote this morning. These are the words I wrote this morning. Step 1, let go of the old life, and all about 12 steps for a new life. The 12 steps of emotional and spiritual well-being, all about letting go what we cannot do anymore and starting to do things we can. Not all at once, because learning life all over again with a new set of principles is going to take time. The gift, we learn what we can do and what is good for us, one day at a time. So it's just one day. One day's learning isn't going to put a lifetime right. One day learning can be very fractious and difficult because we're human, and humans need to learn every day. This one does, me. It took me a good while to get any sense of well-being. When I got to recovery, I was still very fearful about stepping back into this fatal malady of addiction. And I had paranoia, for sure, a fantasy that people were watching me and expecting me to fail. My expectation, when I finally got to a point where the pain of recovery was worth attempting, as it says in step 7 rather, pain is part of it, emotional pain of all that happened. My expectation, when I finally got to a point where the pain of recovery was worth attempting, there had been many false starts and many false hopes, because the human being inside me seemed to be standing on a precipice where one misstep would set me back all over again. And it did, because I used to go to meetings, feel like I didn't belong. In fact, I desired not to belong. The very last place I want to be is the Last Chance Saloon, where people don't drink anymore, because it doesn't work, and life doesn't work. So I was an argumentative so-and-so, and I was reluctant and dismissive of the possibility of a new life, because I was so full of pain from the old life. Yeah, one misstep would set me back all over again. The choice was so simple, and yet on the emotional and spiritual level, which is dealing with my feelings in the moment of now, it felt so complicated and impossible. I had no clue that fellowship and support would be the key to my recovery one day at a time, because I was a clever bugger and I thought I knew it all. But I didn't. I only knew what I knew. Letting go an old life and starting a new life with 12 steps, or rather 12 principles of living, which would help me every day from back then to now. And when I put these principles into my living experience, live them, the principles, life works as well as it may be, and as life is today, life on life's terms, living reality and learning to cope, and then when I cannot cope, I can ask for help. So step 7, all about humility, asking for help and learning. That is the strength. We can say, yeah, I've got some life experience, but I haven't got the life experience which is going to work in this situation. I think I need some help. About step 6 and 7. Step 6 is all about the old life, which was full of excess and extremes of behaviour. Step 6 defined as defects of character, or rather personality traits, which have been so ingrained, likened to the 7 deadly sins. And to an extent, well, I'll go on to this, but the 7 deadly sins and the 7 virtues, we have them all in us all the time. They're not at war unless we make it so. Yeah, I just thought about that. The virtues and the vices are always within us, all of them. Otherwise they wouldn't have been written about, or classified either as defects or assets. So, where have I got to? Yeah, about step 6 and 7. Step 6 is all about the old life, which was full of excess and extremes of behaviour. Step 6 defined as defects of character, or rather personality traits which are so ingrained, likened to the 7 deadly sins. These defects described as sinful would be pride, envy, gluttony, lust, wrath, greed and sloth. And in step 7, shortcomings, and the shortcomings can be personality traits. I need to develop on a daily basis makes the shift from old behaviour to new behaviour and attitudes. So the opposite of 7 deadly sins is quite simple, developing the 7 virtues: humility, kindness, abstinence, chastity, patience, liberality and diligence. So step 7 is humility, working at understanding and living life again with some good principles, the toolkit if you like, the 12 steps which help us on a daily basis make sense of the can do and can't do. Can do good things, cannot do the old defective things, like drink myself to death. It may seem so obvious if you're not an addict, but the turmoil in one's head, my head at the time, was great. So, defects and the old life to varying degrees in step 6, and then recovery, developing and working on my shortcomings in step 7. So, defects, too much of the wrong thing; shortcomings, not enough of the right thing. I'm not a religious person or affiliated to any particular viewpoint on the 7 deadly sins or 7 virtues, and did not know to what extent I was impacted by any of the defects of character, and the defects are when life is negatively impacted. Not just my life, but the lives of people around me who were affected by my actions too. Then, as part of the 12 steps, step 4 helps me take personal inventory of the defects, and step 4 helps me look at the virtues as well, the good things I did all my life, because I did do good things. So it's not all hell, although the last few years was hell. And then, a part of the 12 steps, step 4 helps me take inventory of the defects, and step 4 helps me look at the virtues. So the step 4 inventory helps me understand how life was made negative by defects and positive by virtues. And in all of this is balance. A person isn't completely defective or virtuous. There is some good in the worst of us and some bad in the best of us. And the good and bad news is, on any given day we can find ourselves in situations which have a negative impact or a positive impact on us. Clearly, if we know our mood, how we are emotionally dealing with life in the moment, we start to understand where we are as a person or a human being, and how other people are coming at this in any given moment. Our mood can go from negative to positive in a split second, and similarly our mood can go from positive to negative in another split second. Now, how efficient is that? Able to respond in the moment of now. So that's what we are. Mood changes in a split second. You can be walking happily along, trip over the pavement, feel like a fool, and look round to see if anybody saw you, or if they're laughing at you, negatively impacting, or you can just laugh, bloody pavement. That's just a simple example, but we are what we are, and impacted by our immediate surroundings, and mood changes in a split second. So if you smile at a girl, if you're a girl, you might smile back, and if you're a girl, you smile at a man, etc., etc., depending on your preferences. Yeah, you know how it works. But it can, in a split second, we can the mood changes by courtesy, a smile, good morning. Good morning means God be with you, by the way. And I don't mind God. Got no problem with God. It's just how it's interpreted by the rest of the world. And similarly, you will have problems with my interpretation of this, because you are supposed to have your own point of view. So, we humans are built through nature, nurture and providence to be able to respond to our environment in the moment of now. So, feelings in the moment of now, emotional and spiritual, coping. Which is why we can all be in turmoil and confused when we're hit with new experiences. Or we can say, this is a new experience, I don't know how to be in this new experience. And be happy with that, and be vulnerable around what happens next. Some things in life can be very scary in recovery, and when we are in recovery from addiction, we have developed very extreme and negative attitudes and behaviour to sustain our old life, the life blighted by addiction. So the new experience of recovery, where we are constantly trying to move forward into a new positive way of living, feels and is a dramatic change we ask of ourselves, and one that is difficult to sustain on our own, without support and a new attitude of being open, honest and willing to feel wrong-footed for as long as it takes for the new life to be a possibility. So we don't just emerge into a new life and say it's all right. We emerge with a new outlook and find it very difficult to adjust. And this is why it's not good to pretend to be okay when we're not okay, because step 7 is the humility to approach life open, honest and willing to change. And if you're fearful, and it's an environment which is fearful and there are good people in it, say you're fearful. If you're in a bad environment which is fearful, find the exit door as soon as possible. Go to a meeting and ask for help. How do I cope with these things? And if you ask for help in a meeting, either somehow through sharing or afterwards, somebody may have an answer for you, but it may not be immediate. And that's the way of the world. It's not all right now. Well, it is. Life is right now, but the answers don't always come right now. You have to learn how to deal and cope with life in a different way. So rather than going step 7 down the pub, step 6, defect down the pub, step 7, asking for help, get to a meeting. And that sounds a bit coy, but it's true. And I know the pull back to addictive behaviour and extremes in the old life were extremely difficult to let go, so that I could start this new life, where I would be free again, letting go old ways and starting a new life. And then getting stuck in the middle of it all, where I couldn't work out what to do. One split second, the old life seems right. I'm going to respond angry and, really put my foot down. And in the next split second, the new life must be better. But how to get there? How to get to these new qualities, if you like? Open, honest and willing to feel the pain and say, I don't know the answer to this. My immediate reaction is quite negative. Help me. Please help me. So constantly to and fro in my head. This is what I was doing. It was a battle with the old way, battling with the new way, caused me psychotic episodes. And I did, down in the dumps, the desolation of depression, and not wanting this because it's just too hard. And what I didn't realise, I was clinically depressed. Clinical depression is a chemical imbalance up here. And there is no happy pill for it. There is medication to get your chemistry right again, but there is no happy pill as such. Chemistry can be adjusted with help from professionals, something I learned, so I didn't wallow and want to die, because dying was easy. Yeah, I had psychotic episodes, and without help I would definitely have found myself back in the fatal malady. So I realised I needed help, not only with my emotional and spiritual. I needed to be on a level playing field, so my feelings fitted reality. And these days I think most of the time my feelings do fit reality, and when I don't know what to do, step 7, humility to ask for help. And this is key every day. I'm a human being. I can step back into step 6, I'm right and you're wrong, or I can step into step 7, I don't know what is right, and you're not wrong, something's wrong. So step 6, which is the old life, always attractive. Not so much these days, because the new life, step 7, where I have my choices back and the freedom to be me. In early days I did not understand who I was, and that it was okay to have a complete fear of having no identity at all. So by the time I got to fellowship, I had no clue who I was or what I could be, and no way to relate to the world like I used to down the pub. What kept me looking backwards into the old life? The desire to be the man I used to be, the man who could do anything when asked, the man who could make lots of money, the man who was drinking himself to death because he'd lost the plot and really did not want to be here anymore. The old life, when I took inventory, was a man pretending to be something and having no clue. This is me. I had no clue who I was, except a desire to be the man I thought you wanted me to be. And then step 7, about having humility to learn, which apparently can cure pride, and rest assured it does. I suppose false pride is thinking the answers have to come from me, but you can have the pride of working together. Confidence maybe is the right word. Working together, things do work. Humility to keep learning life and asking for help. And with fellowship I found kindness, which seemed to help me with envy, kindness of other people, and offering support. If I asked for it, I will get help. I needed humility to ask. So when we get there, we're very defensive, because I didn't get where I am today by being a drunk, but actually I did. And I'm still alive, which is a shock beyond belief when I look back. When it came to alcohol, that was the top addiction which anyone could see as the problem. In those last years, they were dreadful. And the virtue of abstinence, which is a virtue, a total abstinence in this case, was the cure for gluttony. And gluttony, in my emotional and spiritual hell, trying to fix myself. Back in the old ways, and this is my belief, the spiritual experience is good, bad and ugly, and when we are in addiction we are in hell, because there is no way out on our own. Addicted to substance, alcohol, and also addicted to trying to be perfect with the right people, in the right place with the right things. Gluttony is an ugly word, and is also a spiritual experience. And abstinence offers a way back to sanity and forming new relationships with everything, substances, people, places and things today. Lust, in the vernacular of the 7 deadly sins, again all about wanting, craving, desiring to excess. Just like alcohol, we don't know the problem until we are in it. And lust is not love. Lack of love can drive anyone into extreme feelings of loneliness and a desire to fill ourselves with activities which may lead to some sort of serenity. Part of step 4, and looking at our negative attitudes and behaviour, as we feel lost and lonely, we will crave love and trying to find it wherever we can. As the great loves in my life needed to get away from the old me, the man who did not know himself, and the man who tried to be perfect and was never so, the more we try and find love in many ways, and with many women in my case. And that's not bragging, it's just desperation caused by loneliness. In the end, I found women who were just like me, lost and lonely in many respects, but fortunately for them, this is just an opinion, they weren't alcoholics or addicts. I would say 99% weren't. And I still don't know. And that is why we are probably very happy. They are very happy somewhere else. And thank goodness they are happy somewhere else. They wouldn't have been happy with me if I didn't know me. They would just be... I just don't... They would have been lonely. As lonely as I was. And those who loved me enough to stay around a while, I feel they saw my madness and had to leave anyway. No matter how they may have felt about me at the time, if I did not know myself, how on earth could they know me? And as I write this, I need to realise there is no blame attached when it comes to the behaviour of people in the moment of now. That's now. Most people are reacting and responding as they can, given their life experience. When I look back at my life experience, there were many dramatic and wonderful times, and I tried my utmost to create wonderful scenarios. Wonderful and extreme scenarios cannot be maintained at extreme levels. And I guess part of the disappointment in myself was the high expectation and trying to be the very best in all situations, feeling like I was responsible for everything, and I wasn't. And I wasn't trying to be the best in all situations, not at the expense of other people, just simply driven and then driven mad by my own expectations, which I wasn't able to articulate or verbalise. I just thought I had to keep on going, and more blindness about what I was doing to myself and blindness about the world. So the old life, I really set myself up for failure in the end, because whatever it was I thought I ought to be, I could never achieve it, and so I was plunged into the negative world and could not see a way out on my own. And those final years of drink, the hopefulness of never waking up, and the horror of waking up and hating myself, and by hating myself I could hate the world for everything and everything in it. Maybe blame is a horrible defect, although it is not mentioned so anywhere. The curative power comes in the form of forgiveness, I need to forgive myself for my fatal malady, addiction and extremes, which were impossible. And part of step 7 for me is reminding myself when I wake up to forgive everything of everyone, including me right now. And I know during the day there will be times when forgiveness gets very thin, and I need to remind myself again that people are the best they can be right now. People are the best they can be right now. I am the best I can be in this moment. And for both you and me, the spiritual experience of now can be spiritually good, spiritually bad, and spiritually ugly. Whether life is good, bad or ugly in the moment can be changed depending on what we do next. In the blink of an eye, we know our mood and how emotions are going to affect our thinking and the next action we take, because that's how living in the moment works. Knowing our feelings in the moment, how our thinking will be impacted, and what actions we're going to take. And it happens so quick. We can move negatively, good, bad or ugly, anywhere, if we are aware of our impact. Then life can change. Freedom of choice about situations, what we can do, what we cannot do, help us navigate and feel right in the moment of now. What are described as negative emotions, which we will all have when things are going against us, they need to be felt, and then as we feel these negative emotions in the blink of an eye, we can think about our responses to the immediate situation. If we have a step 6 response, full of anger and blame, and bringing all the extremes we have dealt with in the past, or we can have a step 7 response, which is to take account of how we feel and how we are impacting on our situation. If we do impact negatively on the situation, we feel the full horror of the old life start to grow in us again. It's the here we go again scenario. If we can impact in a positive way on a situation, we are utilising the positive, and although it may feel awkward to be level and equal with people who are irritating and doing something which maybe we're not so sure about, or just simply making us angry, we need to be level and equal. Even when they're not level and equal with us, we do not need to be dragged into old ways. We can walk away if we have the tools, and sometimes we can be the mediator if we have the tools. And if we are the problem to other people, we need to understand why, and if we can change, we need courage to do so. So, step 6 in the old life, I will always have these extreme personality traits in me, just like everybody else has them. We can find ourselves in extreme feelings, extreme thinking, and extreme actions. Similarly, and this is the problem, we can have extremely virtuous notions which are unreal. The old life and the vices, the new life actually is not to be a Puritan. The new life is to be human and recognise that we all have vices and virtues, that we are a complicated mix of feelings all the time, and that these feelings are very real. Very real feelings can lead to fantasy and impossible ideas which have no foundation. We all dream, we all have fantasies, and will have ideas and things we want to do. How can step 6 and 7 help me today? In my daily living, step 6 reminds me that I can imagine many things which would make my life seem better. I would like to be younger. I would like to be more virile. I would like to be attractive to the girls I'm attracted to. Funnily enough, just writing this, drink was not the one thing that came to mind. It reminds me sometimes that I do miss the imagined life of getting married and having children, and all the love that there would be. And then I know something else. Back then, I was not prepared, and I did not understand how to be that man. And step 7 reminds me, unconditional love is where I am today. Not to impede the spiritual progress of other people, especially don't rob them of their lives in some way, because I don't know how much more I've got. especially anyone who might be close to me, because I just simply want them to flourish and to be happy. Unconditional love for other people is more than I ever dreamed possible. It is, actually. Unconditional love is something I thought I had to acquire as an asset. I don't know that we understand love. It is emotion and not a thought that can be described too well. Love has always been there, and all my life I have been a loving person, as best I could in the moment of then. I did have love in me, I just didn't understand how to relate, how to be me. I was always trying to be the person you wanted me to be. God, blimey. I'm smiling at myself because, self-awareness back then, I was very aware of how other people were, and I think because I went through sheer hell a lot of the time, I was always able to help people out of hell, but I couldn't understand my own hell in a handbasket on a daily basis. So unconditional love these days is about learning every day how to love, how to be loved back, and the unconditional part is really in the can do and cannot do, in the serenity prayer. Unconditional love, I feel we will always be learners, and we will keep on learning. The capacity of unconditional love is without limit, but we humans are limited in some respects by life and experience, age, old age, maturity. We don't lose the capacity to be able to love unconditionally, which is not to impede the spiritual progress of other people around us. Sometimes is how I feel, but not to lose my identity, but to still have my spiritual progress. The 12 steps as life principles keep on opening the door to new life and new living, and providing I keep living, learning love continues one day at a time. So in my step 6 and step 7 life, I can be at 6s and 7s with the world, into the extremes of defects, or into the extremes of thinking virtuously about how I ought to be, rather than saying, I'm a human and I feel these things. And now what am I going to do about it? And that's a bit scary sometimes, especially around love. Yeah, it is just the way it is, because I'm a human being, sensitive, full of old wisdom, and learning the wisdom of the day. The old negative wisdom can shake me in the blink of an eye, and the new positive wisdom is what I learn in the moment of now. It is a free choice. If we know how to make good choices today, the likelihood is that serenity and peacefulness is available and on offer one day at a time. So that's me. I know I went on a bit. Understanding step 6 and step 7. Step 6 all about the old life. Step 7 moving into a new life. The old life all about trying to show that I can do it. The new life asking for help and having the humility to learn it. So it is the one which separates out what sort of life are we going to have. We can still be sober and be stuck in step 6, or step 6 impacts on a daily basis. All the old learning, the old wisdom, the old attitudes, the old ego, not accepting other people just the way they are today, or rather accepting people just the way they are today, because that's the best they can be. Sometimes they can help, sometimes they can't. Sometimes help comes from sources we never thought. And being open to the possibilities, letting good conscience work for you, rather than say, it's just not right, how dare it be this way. Look for ways that life can work again. So sober today, the rest of emotional and spiritual starts to unfold, as it will and can. That serenity prayer, can do, can't do, and wisdom to know the difference. Doesn't matter, one fellowship, sobriety, many faiths and opinions. So that's an atheist, agnostic, believer. That prayer of wisdom to get back to sanity, which it is for me. Sometimes it's a hard crawl back to sanity, and some days sanity is all day long. although I can get mad at some of the things which are happening in the world, but I'm powerless over those. So the serenity prayer to God, or in good conscience: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, the wisdom to know the difference I'm learning by the second, by the minute, by the hour, and just for today.